call for proposals. So with us today we have Marta Soler-Gallart from the University of Barcelona, and she kindly agreed to spend 1 hour with us and to have a fruitful discussion on this topic, and she will help us tackle this challenge of impact in SSH and Challenge 6 proposals. Without any further delay, I will pass the word to her.
Okay, good morning to everybody. So I will share with you some of the advancements and the results of a research project we have been developing under Framework Program 7, and this is called Impact EV, and is particularly on the evaluation and on the evaluation and finding indicators for evaluation of social impact from research, particularly. No? Can you pass next slide, please? There is something that we all know, that there is a kind of a questioning of social sciences and humanities worldwide. It's not only something that's happening in Europe, it's happening in the US, it's happening in Japan, in many different countries, and there is some questioning of how are we able to explain what is the impact of what we are researching in the social sciences and the humanities. Next slide, please. Next slide, yeah. This is just a little example in a conference about, it was called Science Against Poverty. Federico Mayor Zaragoza, the former director of UNESCO, he said, no, I won't go to another conference where they present diagnosis of poverty, because the best diagnosis is autopsy, but it comes too late. So we need solutions. Diagnoses are important, but we don't need more diagnosis on the social problems. We need solutions based on evidences, and we need them now. So this is a little bit this approach that we are being asked, no, from policymakers, but also from citizens, saying to the scientists, not people who are doing research in the social sciences and the humanities, that they want us doing research about the solutions that we need, no, in our case for Europe. No? Next slide, please. And next one. Yeah. Well, the former, please. Sorry. Okay, this is just a brief mentioning from was published in Nature, and when there was some reflection that science must be prepared for impact, no? And there was some reflection saying like policymakers are not longer willing to hand over millions of pounds to taxpayers' money to scientists in exchange of a vague promise of something that something goodwill come from it. So it's not just about goodwill; it's about intentions that we are more and more being asked from the scientific community to provide this, to be able to write evidence of what is the impact of what we are researching. So this is just a framework, no, that what is happening, no, that you, I'm sure that you are very much aware, and that's why we need to go forward in what are the methodologies, the ways in assessing in social impact, and in making sure that our research will end into having social impact. 2 slides, please. Next one and next one. Yes, here. So this is a little bit the goal of Impact TV. Next. So the main objective is to develop a permanent system of selection, monitoring, and evaluation of the various impact of social sciences and the humanities research. So the goal of this project is to develop this system, no, for monitoring, but and this we are doing it from the evaluation ex ante, in itinerary, and ex post, no, evaluation of impact. So what do we need to do before, no, when we are at the level of the project proposal, and also after the research project, no. So and the goal for this is that the research can have political and social impact especially. We already have a lot of systems to evaluate scientific impact, which is a lot of metrics, different kinds of metrics, not only impact factor, but only many other new metrics like H-index or AL metrics. But there is a lot on this. There is much less on how we evaluate, on how we make sure that research can have policy and social impact. 2 slides, next and next. Okay, here is just a summary of some of the things that we have already done. So in relation to through the Impact TV project, we have done the ex-post evaluation of FP7 and last call of FP6. This means that we were gathering data from all the research projects in the social sciences and the humanities that have been funded under these calls, and also we interviewed main researchers in order to gather what has been the social impact achieved already from FP7 and last call of FP6. And so we are in process of doing success case studies in order to see those projects that have been more successful in achieving these impacts, how they did it, what are their methodologies, how they're engaging with the society in order to achieve this. We have compared different national frameworks to see how this is being done at different national levels. And also now we are involved in the interim evaluation of Horizon 2020 for Societal Challenge 6. So which is a task that it's being conducted right now. So this is what we have been doing so far, and we are in the development of impact indicators. I'll talk about this a little bit later. Also, next slide, please. Also, we through this project we have been in contact with national agencies. For instance, in Spain, we have already have dialogues with the National Agency for Evaluation, and they are including in the national scientific programs also and the guidelines for evaluators, the evaluation of impact from research, and also we are talking to the collaborating with the National Agency for the Catalan University System. So the same that we do at European level, we are trying to bring this discussion also at the national level. Next slide, please. So this is just like a little bit introduction of something that I know that you are very much aware, and to know a little bit what we are doing through the Impact TV project. And now let's go to so what do we evaluate when we evaluate impact from research? And I'll go through different parts of different ways of thinking of this impact. The first one, it's next slide. It's what we call peer impact. Peer impact, it's like like a global concept, of that includes all the kinds of scientific impact, which is the impact that is assessed according to how colleagues are valuing this work. Now, an example is impact factor. So colleagues from the same discipline, from the scientific field, how they are citing the work that another scientist is doing. So this is what we call peer impact. And there are many kinds of, as I already said, metrics assessing this. And even there is what we call creative impact. In other fields, like in the humanities, in arts, it is very difficult. Like people from arts, maybe they don't publish in a high-ranked peer-reviewed journal, but maybe they have a catalog and exposition of art. So there is the creative impact, which is also the recognition from peer artists about the value of the creativity of a work. So this is the different kinds of peer impact assessed by the same peers, by the scientific colleagues from the scientific community. And this is what we are more used to. Another kind of impact, next one please, is what we call dissemination. No? So when our research, that maybe is being published in a peer-reviewed journal or high-ranked peer-reviewed journal, also we make sure that it goes beyond the scientific community, and it's get to known to through institutions, companies, NGOs, citizens at large. When they get to know about this scientific work or research work, this is dissemination. And usually researchers, they do a lot of outreach activities, seminars oriented to the society, different kind of publications to the general publics, and there are many different ways in which researchers have been very much creative and in order to think of these outreach activities to go beyond the scientific community and to reach out to society. But this still is at the level of dissemination. We want our knowledge to go beyond the scientific, beyond the walls of the university. But this is still dissemination. And there are also metrics that are gathering this kind of impact through to the wider societies, for instance, through the social networks or so on. Next one. Then there is what we call transference, which is when transfer takes place when the policymakers, companies, NGOs, or the citizens, they use our research to plan or to carry out their interventions. So when this knowledge that is produced by researchers is implemented by either a company or NGO, this is transference. But when we do when we talk about transference, it doesn't mean that it has an impact in the society. We know that it's been transferred, it's been implemented through a program, for instance, or through a policy. When we talk about policy impact, political impact, this is also transference, because and it's very important because the results from the research have been used by different kind of stakeholders, and this is in the social sciences is more talked as policy impact, but it's a kind of transference. And next slide, please. And then is when we go to the next one will be social impact. Social impact happens when transference serves to achieve better social results. So social impact, we can say that there has been social impact coming from a research, one research or several research projects, when there has been an improvement in society linked, thanks to some results that have been implemented maybe through a program, maybe through a policy, and it has led to some improvement of the life conditions of people. So this is social impact, and this is the more difficult part to gather and to assess. So when we talk about social impact, are evidence-based improvements experienced by individuals and societies, resulting from the transference of excellent research. But this is something that also the researchers, we need to be aware of how to gather this social impact from our research projects. Not only engaging with policymakers, engaging with civil society, but also gathering whether this engagement is leading to improvements into society. Because there is a problem that sometimes transference or this policy impact can also lead to a worsen, to have a worse situation in society. Not all the transference always leads to an improvement. That's why social impact is very important, because social impact means this level of improvement. Next slide, please. So thinking of these different levels of impacts, so when we assess impact from research, it's not, there are many different levels that we should take into account, and I think all of them, we think that all of them should be included in this assessment. And especially the social impact, which is the most difficult not to gather, and that's something that maybe the researchers are less used to gather, to see whether this implementation of their work is actually leading to the improvements to the life of people. So when can we do this evaluation of social impact? Social impact, it's not only when the research finished, but we can think of this at the different levels of the research project, from the project proposal to the end of the project. Next slide, please. Okay, so the usual way of evaluating social impact is ex post evaluation. So when we perform an ex post evaluation of impact, when the research is finished, and then we see whether these results are leading to improvements. But then there is the issue that we should take into account, that social impact after a research project is finished can be short-term, but very often it's a long-term process, because we can gather these improvements when these results are implemented into a policy and then reach to some improvement in society. It can be long-term. So we need ways of gathering this social impact long-term, linked to some background research that has been provoking this. So ways of tracking the social impact is something that we need. Next slide. The other moment of assessing social impact is ex ante, and this is also difficult but very necessary. It's at the level of the project proposal. So, but this is a crucial moment, because it's when we are assessing whether this project should be or should not be funded. And we were very used to writing in our proposals potential impact. And then we will write there all these many kinds of outreach activities in order to reach out to civil society, or reach out to companies, or reach out to policymakers. But also another way, a very good way of assessing social impact ex ante is looking at the social impact already achieved by the author or by the research group in the previous work. If a research group, some research team, they can show, look, in our trajectory of research, we have done these projects, but we also have these social impacts. So this is a way of proving capacity of engaging and creating impacts into society. And this is something that we already do when we look at the scientific excellence. We look at what is the background, how many publications they have. So now at the ex ante level, so we should also look at what are the impacts of the work that they have done so far, at the same level that we look at publications. So this is something that will be crucial in the near future. Next slide, please. And then is the in-itinerary evaluation or the monitoring. That is also very important, because it's identifying through the process of research possible mistakes in relation to how the development of the project is using, the methodological way of developing the project is leading to this potential social impact, or something should be modified throughout the process. So in itinerary, it's also important. Next slide. Okay, so in our research, and through Impact EV, so we have been working in looking at all these different levels of impact, ways of assessing them, especially those that are not already so well developed, and also how to do this at the different levels of the research, development of the research. And through this, what we have also been also asked from the European Commission is to develop some indicators and systems for doing this. And we have focused, because there is less about this, especially in ways of measuring the social impact and ways of gathering the social impact. And through this we have developed a repository of social impact of science. Next slide. This repository is called SIOR, Social Impact Open Repository. This is a product that is an outcome of Impact TV. And in this is a non-profit initiative. It's launched through this project. It's been developed with a consortium, and this repository is the first repository focusing only on the social impact from the research, from projects. It is not only for the social sciences, it's a repository open to all sciences, but it is of a special interest for the social sciences because of this questioning that we have seen, especially in this field of research. Next slide. Okay. So SIOR is responds to this demand of having ways of measuring the social improvements, which is the most difficult part, as I said before. And is also a way, there's a way of gathering that you can enable or we can promote this real social impact from research, or this process of gathering from researchers. Through SIOR, researchers can, it's an open source, it's open to everybody. And then researchers can upload their research projects, or maybe a line of different research projects, because something that we can see when we are gathering impact from research is that sometimes it's not only for one single project, but from a line of research of several projects on the same topic. But so it's a way in which the researchers can upload, this is my project, and these are the impacts of my project, and write what is their impact and upload the evidence. Something that is very important is that they must upload evidence of this social impact. It's not something that is self-reporting from the researcher, explaining what they have done and who they have engaged with, but is providing the evidence with some data, which can be quantitative or can be qualitative. I'll show this data. Next and next 2 slides, please. Okay. So something that we have done also with SIOR, with the repository, is linking the repository SIOR to ORCID. At this moment, I was elected as the only researcher at the board of directors of ORCID, and the main goal of being my presence in the board of directors is promoting the use of ORCID among the social sciences and the humanities. And what we did with SIOR is the researchers, they register to the SIOR system, to the repository, through their ORCID ID. In a way that in the ORCID ID, now if we have an ORCID ID, we only see the research in the researcher's profile, we see all the publications from the researcher, and which is the source that they have linked these publications from. Is this Scopus? Is this Web of Science? Is this Crossref? So now also in the researcher profile, there is a link to the social impacts of the research projects, in a way that the profile of the researcher is not only of this one way of measuring the impact of science through citations from colleagues, also through this social and policy impact of of this research, but in a systematic way of gathering it. No? So we are working with ORCID in this link from this evidence from social impact to the researcher profile. No? And also we are right now we are in collaboration with Nature, with the Nature Publishing Group, no? In order to link the social impact to the research published in Nature. No? So we are opening up, no, through different kinds of collaboration, no, of systematizing these impacts, no, from research projects that have been published, no, into the researchers' profiles. I'll give you some examples. No? Next slide. For instance, this is a project that is uploaded, no, in the CR repository. No, it's from the Harvard Kennedy School. It's called Inclusive Cities Project. No, and is on the waste. Is a project doing research on waste management. No? So what they upload is this is the project, no? This is the evidence. No? They have to write the evidence, and this is the source of the evidence. In this case, one of the sources is media coverage. So there are many different ways of providing evidence. It can be through a publication, through a research report, an official research report, through own data from the project, no? Through media coverage, no? Through many different kind of ways. No? Next, which is another example. Okay. This is another project from Tokyo, no, on control of agricultural products. No? And so they have evidence of how the research is leading to improving life in terms of decontamination of agricultural products. No? The source, an official report from the public administration. No? This is one of the sources that proves that the research has been useful in this way. No? And also the own publication through a book of the researchers. No? So it is important that there is a source, no, of this evidence, no, that this evidence is provided. No? Next slide, please. Okay. So then what we do in the repository, social impact repository, is to have we have defined some social impact criteria, no? How we define whether there is social impact or not, no? And to have some scores. This is like a slide from the website, no? If we go to the next one. Yes, these are the social impact criteria, no? So that we can measure whether there is or there is not social impact. The first one is connection to the official targets. For instance, UN Sustainable Goals, no? EU 2020 targets. No? So it is important that with the researchers, no? We are not the ones defining which are the goals of society. No? These goals or targets have already been defined by citizens and by the governments who are leading our societies. No? So nobody elected us in order for doing this. No? So our goal is to see whether the research, no, is linked, no, to some of the goals of society. So this would be one criteria of social impact. A second criteria is percentage of improvement, in relation to the starting of the situation. So when this was implemented, there has been this improvement, in 3%. This is an estimation in 30%, whatever. Another is transferability of the impact, whether the impact is just in one single context, in one small community, or in two communities. It's not the same. That when we talk about social impact, it doesn't mean that, for instance, one goal, one EU 2020 target is reducing early school leaving. So it doesn't mean that we have proof that there has been a reduction of early school leaving in a whole country. But it can be proved that with some implementation, in some schools in a small area, they have improved early school leaving, and this maybe this could be a one social impact. If this has been in two contexts, different contexts, this will be transferability of this impact, no? And then if it happens in two contexts, it could be scalable, no? To broader, no? Society, no? So we don't. So when we talk about social impact or this gathering these goals, no, it doesn't mean like a change, a whole change into a society, but it can be a small change in a community. No, that proving this is like in medicine. No, there is a trial, and if you can prove that this has been improving, no, in a small community, then it can be scalable. No, it can influence policy, no, in this way. Okay, so that way we talk about transferability, no, to two contexts, for instance, no. Another criteria is publication in scientific journals, no, whether the results have been published or not, and another sustainability, no, whether these improvements are sustainable when the projects have ended, no, or is something that that is only when there's funding from the project, no, there is impact, and when there is no funding, this ends, no. So these are the criteria, no. Next slide, and next slide. Sorry, because and next one. No, well, here's some of the targets. Next one. I'll go a little bit fast to get the questions. Next one. And next one. Okay. For instance, no, here let's take the second criteria, no, percentage of improvement achieved. No? Depending on what is the estimated percentage of improvement that is reported by the researcher, no, we can give it a score, no, and we give scores for each criteria from 1 to 10, no? And then there is the final score. No? So according to each one of these criteria, okay. Next one. Next one. Okay, something that we say that is very important is that if there is a score of 1, it is already a very good result, because it means that according to this criteria, this project has already some social impact. No? So it is the objective is to have a way of gathering and then proving that it's fulfilling some of these criteria, but of gathering that there has been some social impact. No? And so it's that like in other type of metrics, no? Already being in one of the journals that in journal citation report is already a good one, no? That because it means that it's having some or having some citations. It's one citation. It's good, already a good result. Okay. Next one. So I'll put some examples and then also to finish. No. For instance, this is one another project that is uploaded in the CIOR repository. It's on paleontology. No, the Atapuerca project. No, and for instance, in this project, they have been able, no, they have uploaded different kind of impacts. One of them, no, I don't know if you can see in the slide, it's creation of employment, economic growth, and cultural development. No? And so what they have, I mean, they discovered some some bones from an hominid, no, that says that it's supposed to be the first hominid in Europe, no, and this, no, and the creation of the Museum of Evolution History has created a lot of economic development, no, in the region, no, and they have so besides publishing the results in Nature and Science, no, from this research, they have also created, no, a museum that has improved, no, in terms of employment in the region, visits to the museum, a lot of enterprises and social enterprises being created in the area, no? A lot of employment and economic growth, that this has been gathered by the public administration of the region. No? So these researchers that publish in Science at the same time are now gathering all this information of the impact of what they are doing in the region that they have been working. No? But at the same time, there is another kind of impact that what they called creation of intangible cultural happiness. No? And they, through this discovery, from paleontology, and the work they are doing, with the museum and with education, with the schools, they are creating, some kind of impact with this intangible. It cannot be counted like in economic way or in jobs, but it also can be reported, can be also counted in terms of visits to the museum, counted in terms of how families go to the museum and they are happy and learning from this, and there is also a social impact that should be reported, and this is included in this kind of repository, and that we find, for instance, from research that is coming from the humanities. Can you pass some slides? Next, because we don't have much time. Next. I explain all this. Next. Okay, and next, Another project that we have uploaded in the repository is the Griffith Institute from Oxford. They have also reported this intangible impact, through their study of the Tutankhamun tomb and the recreation of this in a museum. So this is something that it's also uploaded, that is assessed as having a social impact. Next. Okay, and just to end this, and then I won't have time for the questions, just to announce you that we have this summer, the end of July, a conference in Barcelona, which is called Social Impact of Science, and we invite all of you to participate, in which there will be researchers, but also publishers, like from Nature Plus, and also funders or people involved in agencies of evaluation, like from the European Commission also, but from other agencies, discussing about social impact from science. There will be one whole day dedicated to social science and humanities, but the other days also dedicated to other sciences, and there are many people from all over the world coming to present and discuss about how to advance in this all together. So, and I will end here. There is like a last sentence that I put, that we cannot change, the next slide, that we cannot change the past, but we can change the present and the future, and SIOR and other ways and systems that are appearing right now, are already contributing to do so, to making visible the impacts from researchers, and also making them accountable in the researchers' profiles. And thank you very much. To put the next one, it is the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Marta, for your brief explanation. To all of us, to all of you following us and who want to ask questions and participate, let me just say there's a bit of delay between you sending your message and us being able to see it here. So you can start making your questions, and in the meantime I will take the opportunity to stress and emphasize some of the issues that Marta talked about, and I think they're very important. And precisely the reason that we decided to start with how impact is evaluated, it's because it offers clues how to better include it in proposals. If we understand better how impact is being evaluated and is being accessed, then we can be better prepared to clarify ways of assessing it. One of the main challenges that we often face when we support as NCPs potential applicants is how they struggle to answer to the question of impact, because they answer to what the Commission says, but then they often have they struggle with the need to bring it down to more tangible aspects or to more tangible results. So to start with how to assess and to evaluate impact is crucial for us to better improve this moment in drafting any proposal that clearly reflects on the issue of impact. And that would be, that is the main reason why Marta is here with us and why her presentation is so relevant. I would just like to emphasize maybe 3 aspects. The first, I would say that the different stages that you mentioned that are needed, and when we can have the evaluation of impact, and this connection and this necessary link between what's an ex ante evaluation when we're drafting a proposal and the ex post evaluation of research that has already been done. So this means that we, as we draft proposals and do research, we are increasing our impact. We are not working in a blank canvas. We are building on previous impact, and this is important to create good, solid proposals. And I think it's quite important what you mentioned. The next thing I would emphasize is the system SURE, which clearly offers us examples of how projects have been tackling the issue of impact in their own proposals and research. And this clearly opens our eyes to different possibilities and different ways of assessing impact. So this is probably a very, very useful research tool that we will be able to use with our community. And then the last thing that I would emphasize is, and from the presentation from Marta, the need to engage with our need to define measurement, a way to measure this impact. And this is also a big challenge for applicants. But it's from what Marta exposed, it's very much important, and it doesn't necessarily entails not only a percentage of impact achieved, but there are other elements which need to be addressed and properly considered. So these are my main lessons that I could pick from your presentation while I was changing the slides. But we already have some questions here. One is coming from Joel. I think it's a colleague of ours from Switzerland, if it's not, sorry. And he says, one of the social impact criterion you mentioned is the publication in scientific journals. Should these journals provide open access?
Well, okay, so one of the criteria that is, yes, is the publication, no? So publication, it doesn't mean that it's social impact per se, but is a criteria that that it's taken into account, no? But yes, now, well, you know that in Horizon 2020 there is this mandate that that all publications, no, should be in open access, no? And then the extent to which we are going to I mean, totally gold, open access, or green, this is helping, no, achieving social impact, because it goes. So there can be more dissemination, no? What I was calling this level of impact factor and then dissemination, no? There is further dissemination, no, if it's published in open access. No?
Yeah. Then we have some questions that I will try to bring them together, because they focus on, you gave a specific example of a project that listed has an impact, cultural happiness and cultural impact. And this is a kind of intangible impact that it's really hard to access and really hard to measure. So how do you measure, how do you evaluate this kind of impact, the intangible impact of your actions?
Yeah, this is true that it's very difficult. That's why I said that that the source of evidences can be qualitative, not only quantitative. It's not only metrics. And so some of these projects, no, what they are explaining is like, if it's in this concrete case, it was a number of visits to a museum and people attending, what kind of people are attending, how many families, no? So this is a way of showing that is having impact on families and education. But And also there are some projects like showing satisfaction from people and people explaining how is impacting in a qualitative way. So, but we think it is important that some of these, for instance, there are a lot of contributions from the humanities that's very important for the culture of a society, and this is very important for the development of a society, no? And this should be gathered, no? So instead of only saying this is important, the difference with the repository is that the researcher has put the effort of arguing and providing evidence of this improvement, this satisfaction, no? That in the citizens.
Then we have here another question is, since you of course and to build to build CIOR you went through so many projects, so the question would be, other than the ones that you brought us as an example, would you emphasize, if you had to emphasize one in terms of best practices to set in the proposal, the goals in terms of impact, and then how they evaluated them, could you make that choice?
Of one single project?
One single project.
I think it's difficult, no? For instance, we did not only in CIOR but in the ex-post evaluation of FP7 and last call of FP6, we had to do this, no? We assessed all the reports from the projects, and then all the reportings of the outcomes of the project, and then we had interviews with the researchers, no? And it is so. This is already, I think this is already public. It was this document of ex-post evaluation, and it is difficult because several projects have achieved in different ways, no? But even thinking of the FP7 projects, no, there have been projects that have been able to influence a policy. No? So how they did that? Most of them is because they engage with policymakers and with different stakeholders from the very beginning, no, of the research, or throughout the research process, no? And so it was important for the project that that there was this dialogue, and this could lead to some outcome like that. So some of them have been successful. It is possible that many of them, they had many seminars with policymakers and it didn't lead to anything. No? Mm-hmm. This is true, no? But most of them who were able to do that is because they were engaging with different stakeholders throughout the research process.
So you wouldn't emphasize a project, but you did emphasize a characteristic, a feature of successful projects, and that it's a transfer and a dissemination and engagement that are very much connected. And this links with another question that we have here: is how can we measure this transference? Because we have been talking about this need to assess impact and to put in our proposal how we're going to measure this. So how can we measure transference? Which would be key performance indicators related with this?
I mean, transference is easier to measure, no? Because transference is to see, well, like this, no? If this has led to the development of a program that has been implemented in a community or in a city, or no, so, or it has or has led to a development of a patent that has been linked to a product, no. So this is easier to gather, no. Some people are also like counting what they call the productive encounters, no, with policymakers. How many policymakers they have interacted with, no? This is not really transference, because if you interact with many policymakers, there is no policy development linked to, there is no transference, no? But so transference is easier, this policy impact is easier, but what the thing is that sometimes So you have to gather the process that leads to some policy, some improvement into a policy, and say, yes, this policy has been influenced by our work. No? Because usually there is no footnote in a policy or in a legal document that says this comes from this project. No? But that's why there should be some explanation, and then some of how this happened, and then the policy or the program that was linked to that. So this, I think, it's easier. No? The most difficult is whether this program or policy is leading to improvements of lives.
Mm-hmm. And we have here another question is, how aware are evaluators in Horizon 2020, either for Challenge 6 or others? Because as you mentioned, the question of social impact is much broader, and it's also linked with Horizon 2020 push for the integration of SSH. Are evaluators fully aware and with criteria to evaluate this impact, this social impact in their hands when they go through proposals?
Yeah, well, I think there is a growing awareness about this, no? Because many of the evaluators, they are researching themselves, and they're also figuring out how they are going to prove this social impact or include it, no, in their. Well, they are aware because also in the call for proposals, as you all know, no, there's already, no, it's written, no, the expected impact from each topic. No? Mm-hmm. So there is an expected impact. So evaluators want to see, no, this expected impact. No? So that's why I think it is important, no, that when they're looking for this, no, because I've been an evaluator myself also, no, if they go to the impact section and they see all these many outreach activities, they say, well, this is a traditional way of, no, there's no innovation here, no, in a way of reaching out to society, no. But that's why the proving of previous impacts, no, that the capacity of the team, the consortium, of doing that, no, it's something very important, which is very new, that evaluators value.
Okay. And the last question is the last question that we got here. It's what would you recommend when designing a project in terms of addressing the different challenge of impact and specifically the challenge of properly addressing transference and this engagement that you mentioned?
Yeah. Well, in drafting the proposal, I say, like, it's a little bit what I said now, no? Besides showing very clear that there will be engagement, no? And how this will be done, no? With different stakeholders. No? And now even, now there is also this change in the Commission and including this kind of co-creation formats of projects that include different stakeholders as partners, not only universities as partners, that to be able to explain, no, how they have achieved, no, the kind of the curriculum of the consortium on achieving impact is something very important, no, that if it is included, no, it's an added value of the proposal.
Another a colleague of ours, someone who's following us, asked you to elaborate a bit further on the question of intangible impact, because it's something that we struggle with, especially when giving advice on potential applicants. So maybe with some specific example that you could share with us would be helpful.
Yeah. For instance, no, there was this project from, it was also from Oxford, from the, because I'm thinking like more from the humanities and this field that is more difficult for them, no? So there was this project on opera, on music, so from the School of Music. And so the research was about how to broaden the audience, no, so of operistic music, no, and classical music, especially operistic music, no, and to break with this kind of elitism that is just for some part of the population, no, and so they were able, and this had a lot of education dimension involved, no? So they were able to show to how many different children from different social, no? Social status, no? They had been influenced by this program, and they had been and how they are potential, no? How they were satisfied, and they had potential, no? Listeners of opera, no? So this is this kind of intangible that you cannot really measure number of people, no? But you can measure how many children involved and how these have changed into the, no? Maybe with some quotations of the satisfaction, or changing what they thought about opera and what they think now, no? And this is like an example of showing, sometimes in a qualitative way, that is having a huge influence. For instance, broadening, no? Some kind of elitist culture to the wider society, no? Mm-hmm.
So the last question just came through, and the question is, what type of indicators would you recommend, as many impact types are of a mixed qualitative and quantitative nature?
Yeah. So the question was, what
type of indicators would you suggest to include?
Yeah. So, I mean, the indicators that we are using as the ones that I showed, no? Which are focusing, first of all, it's whether there can be a link to an official goal, no? So EU 2020 targets, for instance, no? Of course, the EU 2020 targets are very broad, but there can be some connections, no? Like, for instance, in health, no? Improving health. We know that, yeah, there can be a medicine or treatment that improve an illness, no? But there are many determinants of health, which are these indicators that if a community has a better education, this is a determinant of improving health. So looking at these indicators that are determinants of these official goals. So this is one, looking at these kind of links. No, it's not like talking about, yes, this project is good, but it's good because it's linked to one official goal of the society. No, this is one of the indicators which is very important when we talk about social impact. No, and if it can be linked through these, like intermediate indicators to EU 2020 targets, no, this is very important because it shows that it will lead to improvement of European society. No? This is one important criteria, and then the issue of transferability and sustainability is something that is important too. No, how this. It could be maybe it will be implemented maybe with a pilot. It will be implemented in one single site, but how can this be replicated into another site, and this can help, no, to show transferability. So then more further impact in the society, into the direction of policy, and so on, and the same for sustainability. No? So these will be kind of important indicators to take into account in assessing impact.
So to finish, Marta, and I don't want to take you much time because I know you have to leave us, but just to ask you, because you're involved in the midterm evaluation of Horizon 2020, what insights can you give us on the process?
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of discussion about that because it is not easy doing an interim evaluation, when there are no results from any projects, not yet. No, so it's very difficult. But the Commission is very much worried in seeing how we are, whether the work programs are already oriented to this achieving these different impacts, no, or these policy impacts, no, and. So, and they are discussing a lot on how we can see from all that we have bigger things. Now we can explain like bigger stories, like from all of what we are doing, how we're contributing to improve the situation of migration in Europe. No, so how we are starting to approach this through these proposals, but this interim will be more for orientation of what's happening next, no? And especially also for start to drafting Framework Program 9. No? But yes, there is a lot of debate about impact and about methodologies of evaluation. No? Actually, there has been the Commission created a group of experts in methodologies for evaluation of impact, and they're from all sciences, and to help orient or change the ways of assessing impact for the whole Horizon 2020, including from excellent science to industrial leadership and then to societal challenges. No? And the chair of this group of experts in evaluation is the coordinator of Impact TV, is Ramon Fletcher. It's from our team, and they're discussing a lot of how to do this. It is not clear, and also what kind of information we should ask from researchers, because we want them to have social impact, but we don't ask them to report on this, and so on. And there is no enough information gathered on this. No? So, of changing what kind of information we should ask from researchers, and they should gather. No?
So basically, we're talking about the possibility of having a stronger emphasis on impact on the work programs, but also on the reporting phase for
Yes.
projects.
Yes.
Okay, so Marta, from my part, that's it. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. I know we have a tight schedule. Again, so sorry for the 10 initial minutes of blackout that we had. For all of you following us, thank you so much for your understanding. We are aware that there was some technical issues with some of you. We will write them down and try to solve it before the next webinar. And the next webinar will happen in October. It will be like a second moment. Now that we have mapped the ways impact is being evaluated, we will be able to have a more hands-on approach with best practices from people who have addressed the issue of impact in funded proposals. So we're going to explore how it is done and how it has been done in a way to secure funding. So that's the purpose for the second webinar. We will be able to send more information soon, but the next webinar will happen in the end of October. Any questions that you have, please forward to us. We will then contact Marta, and the video will soon be available on Net4Society website. From my part, that's it. Thank you for following us. Thank you, Marta, once again.
Thank you.